நீங்க ஆரம்பிக்கலாம்.
Oh, okay, ma. Okay, ma. Okay, ma. So I want to share a PDF.
Ram Ram. Okay, is that visible? Yes, just 1 minute. Let me switch off this toolbar.
தெரியுது.
Unnecessary space.
நல்லா
Yes,
தெரியுது.
okay. Jai Jai Shankara Hara Hara Shankara Kamakshi Karunarupam Kamakoti Jagadgurum Tinmurting Kalaye Chitte Shankaracharya Abhyayam Kalanam Ashriyam Devi Sannidhyanubhavam Sada Sudarshana Mahadevam Gurum Satyakshanam Namaha Namama Shankaran Vakya Vijayendra Saraswati Shri Gurum Shishtamarganu Netaram Sarmati Pradam Satyanarayana Kshetrat Satyavratam Upagatam Ashriye Kamakotisham Satya Shri Chandrasekharam Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Parampara. Namaste to everybody.
கொஞ்சம் வால்யூம்.
Sure, okay. Namaste to everybody. So I believe Srimati Vidyaji has already introduced me, but nevertheless, just one line of identifying myself here. Right now, I am Shriramana Sharma, and I am the organizer of the Panchanga Sadas, among other things, at the Shri Kanchi Kamakoti Mulamnaya Sarvagya Pitham Jagadguru Shankaracharya Samsthana. Okay, so Panchanga Sadas, and that I am identifying myself that way because that is the role in which I am speaking today. Because my topic, which I took up for briefly talking to you about, is the role of Panchanga in Sanatana Dharma. So Panchanga is, we might think that Panchanga means a book. Well, okay, the word is definitely used to refer to a particular kind of book, but it is referring to that book because that book provides Pancha Angas, 5 Angas or 5 aspects of every day, among so many other things. The basic 5 are important aspects. So let us learn a little bit about the scientific derivation of those aspects, and I will be very briefly hinting on how our Sanatana Dharma life is based upon those 5 aspects. Okay, so see, we know that our basic unit of time based on our perception is the day. The sun rises, so we get light, and the sun goes to the top and he goes to the west and sets. And after he sets, we don't see the sun, we don't have light, at least no natural light, at least not from the sun anyway. And again, until he comes back up in the east, right? So day, that is a very basic fundamental unit that we all know. This is not something new that I am telling you. But how do you identify a day? Okay, so that is a very pertinent question. We say that today is like 2024-26. What is that? March 14th. Okay. So how does this come from? Where does this come from? We can equally say that today is 18,72,648. Okay. So that is a running number. So tomorrow will be 18,72,649, and so on, so on, so on. But obviously, this running number is very difficult to remember or keep track of, right? So that is why we have the concept of year and month, and those are also very practically experienceable events. Actually, they are physical events that we are able to experience, because we are able to experience the year in the sense of, as the position of the rise of the sun changes slowly, it takes a period of about 365 point something days, and we see that the seasons, they undergo an entire cycle. We see peak summer, where we have extreme long days and short nights and heat. And on the other end, we see peak winter, where we have very short daytimes, long night times, and cold temperature, right? So those are very tangible things. Those are something that you can actually experience. And the time taken for an entire cycle is what we call a year, right? So this also we might have learned at school already. And the next unit below, smaller than a year, is the month. The word month, English word month, is actually derived from the word moon, right? It is month, which got shortened to month, because the moon takes a certain amount of time. Let us see what amount of time. Okay, we know that we may think that we know a month is 30 days, but not all months are 30 days. Okay, let us come to that. But the physical event or the physical observable thing that defines a month is the waxing and the waning of the moon, right? So you have this event occurring more than 12 times per year, slightly more than 12. It's not completely 13. Sometimes you have 13 full moons in a year, sometimes you don't. So it is actually a short period of time, like more than 12 months as per the moon, right? So this is the physical event that defines a year and the physical event that defines a month. So this is something, okay, fine. This is something that is not unique to our Panchangas. It is something that is prevalent all around the world, I guess. But these are some aspects which are unique to our Bharatiya way of identifying a day, right? So we, as per the modern calendar, what is actually called the Gregorian calendar, which was sort of not promulgated, but refined by one Pope Gregory around about the year 1542, I believe, or 1572 was it. So he, this what we call 2026, where does it start? I'm not going to go into too much detail about the Gregorian calendar, but you have to have a certain particular point of time where this numbering of 2026 starts. The current year is supposed to be the 2026th year from something else, some other event. And within that year, we have all these months, January, February, and so on. And within each month, we have a fixed number of days. That is the basic structure of the Gregorian calendar that you all already know. But now, what I want to point out here is that our Bharatiya Kala Ganana or time reckoning system has these Pancha Angas. Okay, I guess I should have listed out, given you a nice list, but I have a mixed list. I have some more extra items here. That is, those are related to the Pancha Angas. The Pancha Angas are Tithi, Vasara, Nakshatra, Yoga, and Karana, of which I have three aspects here in this slide because they are related in their scientific basis. Okay. See, when you say that today is 2026 March 14, it tells you almost next to nothing about what is special about today, except that this is just a serial number. You have 31 days in March, and today is the 14th day of those 31 days. And March, you know that is the third month in the set of 12 months. And 2026, okay, that is a number. What it denotes, that's a different topic. But my point is, this 2026 March 14, it does not tell you anything about anything that is naturally significant about this particular day. See, in my previous slide, I showed you how the definition of a year or a month is actually based on something that is physically observable, right? A year is based on the seasons, and a month, it is based on the moon's waxing and the waning. So those are physically observable things. But this March 14th, what does it tell you? Does it tell you anything about the sun, or does it tell you anything about the moon? No. Okay, it has its own value as something that is convenient for lots of purposes. That I'm not saying that it does not have any value, but I'm just saying that it does not tell you anything scientific or observable about today. Whereas our Panchangas tell you something that is scientifically observable about today's sun and moon. Okay, so that is the significance, that is the scientific way that our Bharatiya Kala Ganana has been brought, given to us over the millennia. Okay, so this, to understand that the scientific way, I'll be giving you a very brief, I'm not going into too many technical details, but this is just basic arithmetic, I guess. So you, just now I said that the month is defined in terms of the waxing and the waning of the moon. So the moon keeps growing, he becomes full, and then he keeps becoming smaller and smaller. It becomes dark, it disappears for 1 or 2 days, right? So we know this, and the period taken for this is about 29.53 days, to be very accurate. Okay, that because it's 29.53 days, we round it because we want a full number of days to keep in mind easily. So we round it to 30. So we call these 30 as tithis. We cannot say that the month, one new moon to new moon, we cannot say that it takes 30 days, because it takes actually less than 30 days. But we say that it takes 30 tithis. So each tithi is a time period which is defined by the waxing and the waning of the moon. So we say that today is Shukla Paksha Ashtami. I'll be coming to that. So you can say that you can tell something about the moon, how the moon would look like today. If today is Purnima, then we know that today the moon will rise at about sunset. He will appear full. In Shukla Paksha Ashtami, on Shukla Paksha Ashtami day, he will be, Ashtami is halfway through, right? Because 15 days, 15 divided by 2 is 7.5. Oh, sorry, let me go, I skipped a step. 30 tithis, you divide 30 tithis into 2 halves, because you have the waxing phase and the waning phase, right? So each phase is called a Paksha in Sanskritam, and the waxing phase is Shukla Paksha, waning phase is Krishna Paksha. So each Paksha has 15 tithis, obviously. So you divide the 30 into 2 halves, each with 15 components. So the 15 components, so they represent a progressive increase in the visible part of the moon that is bright, that you can see. So slowly the crescent becomes a half moon, and the half moon becomes what is called a gibbous moon. I don't know, some of you might have heard that word. A gibbous moon is more than half but less than full, right? So then it becomes full, and then again it goes back down, right? So by identifying what tithi is today, you can say that today the moon will appear in such and such a way. So this thing, that this tithi that is identifying this particular day, which the Panchanga gives you, that tells you something actually that you can visibly see, that you can measure about the physical appearance of the moon. Okay, so this has a scientific observable basis. So if you want to talk about calculation wise, you know that an entire circle that has 360 degrees, you divide a circle into 360 parts, and each part is called a degree. So these 360 degrees, if you divide them into 30 tithis, you get 12 degrees per tithi. So when the distance, that is something that I have presented in a further slide. You measure the distance between the sun and the moon. Right? So when the sun is in a particular place and the moon is 180 degrees, he is halfway across the circle from the sun, then he will appear full. The moon will appear full. So the moon's position minus the sun's position, you get an angle, right? And that angle gives you the tithi. And from that angle, you divide that angle by 30, then you will know what tithi today is. So this is just plain arithmetic. There is nothing complicated here. What is actually complicated is how to find the angle, how to find the position of the moon, how to find the position of the sun. That involves far more complicated calculations. That I am not going to go into. This is just a very, very brief introduction. So you have that angle of 360 degrees. You divide it into 30 parts. Because why 30 parts? Because you see that it takes approximately rounded 30 days, 29.5 something. So that is rounded into 30 days. So each day you can see that the moon, the visible part of the moon increases by a particular amount. So that is measurable like this, right? And to be more precise than this, our people, our ancients also developed what is called the Karana. And the Karana is just a half tithi. There is nothing more new to learn about the Karana. If you know what is the definition of a tithi, you just divide the same 30 tithis into 2 tithis, 2 Karanas per tithi. So you have 60 Karanas, right? So the 360 degrees divided by 60 gives you 6 degrees per Karana. Okay, so this Karana also can tell you where the particular moon is. When you use along with the tithi, you know whether the moon is in the first half of the Karana or of the tithi or the second half of the tithi. So this enables you to be more precise. Okay, so this is something, this sounds slightly more technical because we know about tithis, we know about the number of days that it takes from to wax and to weigh. Okay, but anyway, but that along with Karana, it becomes 5. Otherwise, you don't have Pancha Angas, Tithi, Vasara, Nakshatra, Yoga, and Karana. So nowadays, often we see Tithau, Shubha Tithau, Vasara Yuktayam, Nakshatra Yuktayam, then Shubha Yoga, Shubha Karana. Okay, well, that is okay. That means that you are actually skipping the Yoga and Karana. But then you have only 3 Angas. So it is not Pancha Angas. So we can just know the names of the Karanas and the Yogas. If you make that, Vidyaji will, she has lots of material that she can share with you, the list of the Yogas and Karanas and the Nakshatras. I'm not going to list those things here. I'm just giving you a very brief introduction. Okay, so this is about the Tithi, right? So what we learned about the Tithi is, since it takes approximately 30 days for the moon to complete one entire cycle of waxing and waning, you divide that into 30 tithis and 2 halves of 15 tithis each. So the waxing half is called the Shukla Paksha and the waning half is called the Krishna Paksha. And in each Paksha, you have the first is Prathama. Prathama just means first. Dvitiya, Tritiya, Chaturthi. These are the names of the tithis, but they just mean first, second, third, fourth, and so on. That is nothing new. Those are just the Sanskrit words which denote the ordinal numbers of first, second, third, and so on. So those are the tithis. Now coming to nakshatra, nakshatra, we know nakshatra means star. But here, nakshatra, it actually means something more mathematical, in the sense that just like you divided that 360 degrees of the circle into 30 parts for the tithi, here you divide the 360 degree of the circle into 27 parts. Why 27 parts? Why are there 27 nakshatras? Obviously, we know that there are thousands or millions of nakshatras, stars in the sky. What is this meaning of saying that there are Shuni, Bharani, Kritika, Rohini, only 27 nakshatras? Well, obviously, our ancients definitely knew that there are so many more nakshatras in the sense of so many more stars. But here, that is why I said the word nakshatra, it does not just mean star. It has a particular technical meaning. Why 27? If I explain that, then I can explain the meaning of this technical meaning of the word nakshatra. See, just like it takes 29.53 days for the moon to complete one cycle of waxing and waning, if you observe the position of the moon among the stars, see, it is easier to observe the position of the moon among the stars rather than observe the position of the sun among the stars, obviously. Because during the daytime, when you are able to see the sun, you are not able to see the stars. So how are you going to identify directly where the sun is present among the stars? It's not so easy. But whereas in the case of the moon, you can actually see that the moon is near Rohini. The moon is near Chitra. So you can learn to identify the stars by looking at the sky. Okay, and the moon is near Kritika. So today, if you say that today is Kritika Nakshatra or today is Hasta Nakshatra, what does it mean? It means that the moon is near that particular star today. Okay, and in terms of calculation, we find that the moon takes 27.3 something. There are so many more decimal places, but I'm just giving you one decimal place there. Approximately 27.3 days to complete one cycle among the stars. So note that that is shorter than the time taken new moon to new moon. Okay, so one actual rotation with respect to the stars takes just 27.3 days, right? So 27.3, now we are rounding it down because it's less than half. We know that when we round a number, when you round a number with decimal places, you round it up if it is more than half, and you round it down if it is less than half. So this is 27.3 days. So we round it down, we say that there are 27 nakshatras. So this is the reason why we say that there are 27 nakshatras. We mean that because the moon takes approximately 27 days to complete an entire circle among the nakshatras, we say that today he is near Ashwini, tomorrow he is near Kritika, and so on. But obviously, we know that we are able to calculate accurately until when. So when this Ashwini today, Ashwini is until 9 p.m., 27 minutes. All those Panchangas will have all those times also. Because we know that the angle, we know the angle, position angle of the moon. So we divide that position through the 360 degrees divided by 27. So you get approximately 13 degrees, 20 minutes. Minutes means here in the, some of you might not have heard this. Just like a minute is 1/60 of an hour in terms of time, an arc minute in angle also 1/60 of a degree is also called a minute. Okay, so that is 20 minutes. 20 minutes means 20 divided by 60. That is 1/3. Okay, so that is the angle which is assigned to a particular nakshatra. So we keep tracking the moon. So when he crosses that border, he goes into the next nakshatra. Obviously, so he is visible. He will become closer to the next nakshatra. After Ashwini, he will become closer to Bharani. Then he will become closer to Kritika, and so on. So today, if you say that the moon is, today is Kritika nakshatra, we generally say today is Kritika. Today is Kritika means what? Means that the moon is near Kritika nakshatra. Right? So this is the basis of this nakshatra which is given in the Panchangas. Okay, so now when we speak about nakshatras, we also need to speak about rashis. Rashi, the word actually means a collection. What collection of what? A collection of nakshatras, a collection of stars. Okay, why collection here? Because we know, you might have heard the word constellation in modern astronomy also. When you observe stars together, it appears as if this appears like a lion, this appears like a what shall I say, like a bow, and so on. All this is obviously imagination, but it helps you remember things, right? There is no lion in the sky, there is no goat in the sky or whatever, but it helps you remember. So you have Mesha Rashi, you have Vrishabha Rashi, and so on. So why do you have 12 Rashis? Because as we mentioned earlier, there are approximately 12 months. Again, see, keep remembering that all this is based on something that is scientifically observable. That is what I want to highlight here. Our Panchangas, they might seem complicated, but that is because the movement of the sun and moon is complicated. That is not the fault of the Panchangas. The Panchangas are trying to tell you something about the actual visible position of the sun and the moon. Unfortunately, today we might not have the habit of actually observing the sun and the moon too much. Okay, we should do that. We should observe, we should observe nature around us. Where is the sun? Where is the moon? Which is east? Is our house, our gate is facing east or west or south or north? We should have this awareness about our physical, geographic, and astronomical surroundings. Okay, that is what our Panchangas teach us. Okay, so now back to the topic. So you have 12 Rashis. Okay, I guess I should be completing. I'll be finishing soon. So you divided into 12 Rashis because, as we mentioned earlier, there are 12 months to a year. So this month, the full moon will appear in one Rashi. The next month, the full moon will appear in another Rashi, which is about 30 degrees away from the previous one. So the same star circle, those 360 degrees, if you divide them into 12 parts, obviously you have 30 degrees per part. And so this 30 degrees per Rashi becomes 2.25 nakshatras. Okay. Again, there is no quarter star. It just means the quarter section. Okay, so don't worry if you don't get that too much. But the point is, you have 27 nakshatras because of the 27 days taken, and you have 12 rashis because of the 12 months taken per year. Now, we should, this is important. So, we have in our tradition 2 different ways of referring to the month. In most part of Bharat, we have what is called the Chandramana, based on the moon. Okay, here I have given you the names of the nakshatras, Chitra, Vishakha, Jyeshtha, and so on. You might have heard of the names of the months, Chaitra, Vaishakha, Jyeshtha, Ashadha, Shravana, Bhadrapada, and so on. Obviously, the word Chaitra is derived from the name Chitra. It means that in the month of Chaitra, again, see the month. What does the name of the month March tell you about this month? Not too much, but the name of the month Chaitra tells you that the full moon of this month is likely to be seen near the star called Chitra. So again, this is something that is really factually observable, right? And so on, so on, so on. Each month, the next month you have Vaishakha. That means that the full moon, you are likely to observe the full moon near the star Vishakha. So this is the chart. This is the mapping. I can share this document with Srimati Vidyaji, so you can look at it leisurely later on. So when the sun is in Mesha Rashi, then the full moon, obviously the full moon will be opposite to the sun, right? We know that the full moon will be near Chitra. So you have those 12 months, 12 Rashis, which define the 12 months of the sun, and you have the 12 names, 12 nakshatras, based on which the 12 Chandramana months, the lunar months, are named. Okay, so there is this again, this has a physical observable meaning. Okay, and this, when talking about physical observable meaning, I have to admit that this one part of the Pancha Angas, or maybe 2 parts, these 2, yoga and vasara, they are not so physically observable. But yoga is derived from physical observation. When you, as I mentioned earlier, from the moon's position, you subtract the sun's position to get the tithi, and moon's position, you add the sun's position to get the yoga. But what does adding 2 angles mean? It does not have a real physical meaning. But anyway, that is, if you have something that is physical, you have something that is metaphysical also. So that is something that we need to be reminded of now and then. We should not forget that. We should not start thinking that everything in this world is visible. Even modern scientists talk of dark matter. Dark matter is something that you cannot directly detect, but you infer that it exists. So not everything is observable, not everything is physical. Likewise, this yoga is also not entirely physical. It is derived from the physical positions of the sun and the moon. So you have Vishkambha, Preeti, Ayushman, and so on. So likewise, like nakshatras, you have 27 yogas. So the same calculation apply, right? So that yoga also tells you something about, although not so directly, it tells you something about the positions of the sun and the moon. And Vasara, this is something that we probably already know, weekday, but we don't think about it this way. It is just a running number. Actually, we saw the running number earlier, but I sort of skipped over it. This 18,72,648, this number is not just a random number which I threw in here. It is the actual number of days that have elapsed since the start of the Kali Yuga. Srimati Vidyaji and other teachers would have told you about the Kali Yuga and our Yuga setup. this Kali Yuga, the current era, starting from the beginning of this Yuga, you have 18,72,648 days have elapsed. So as the days roll on, you have Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, again Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and so on. So that really does not have too much, does not really tell you too much about the actual position of the sun or the moon, but it is something that we have traditionally used. We, not only in Bharatiya Kalachara, but all over the world, they have used to keep sort of break down the running Akhanda, what shall I say, a series of days, infinite series of days into smaller pieces. So this Vasara is just the weekday that we very well know. So finally, now that you know something that about the scientific basis of all these things, the names of our months, Chaitra, as mentioned earlier, the full moon is near Chitra. And of that month, the Shukla Paksha Navami, when it happens in midday, then that is the day on which we celebrate Rama Navami. Because when Bhagavan Rama was born, this was the celestial arrangement. So we observe in our Sanatana Dharma, we observe our festivals based on the celestial positions that were actually there in those days. See, even for our individuals, we say some of us traditionally observe our birthdays based on nakshatra. See, I was born in Mesha Masa, Ashresha Nakshatra. The sun was in Mesha Rashi and the moon was in Ashresha Nakshatra. Okay, and in other traditions, they have, for example, for Shri Shankara Bhagavat Pada, we say Vaishaka Shukla Panchami. That was his date of birth. So that means that the full moon was going to happen in Vishakha Nakshatra, but the position was Shukla Panchami. Within the fortnight, what was the position? We can learn from that. So all our festivals are based on such meaningful astronomical positions. Shravana Krishna Paksha Ashtami at midnight, that is Bhagavan Krishna's date of birth, Shivaratri, Magha Krishna Chaturdashi at midnight, and so on. So if you see almost all our festivals, they are based on such definitions. So I will conclude by just presenting today's Panchanga. So today's Saura Masa, Surya is in Kumbha Rashi right now. That is Aquarius as per the Western naming system. And the Chandra Masa, it is Phalguna because the full moon was near Phalguni Nakshatra. Okay. And the Paksha, today's Paksha is Krishna Paksha. The moon is in its varying phase and it is 11 days into the Paksha. So today is Ekadashi. And Vasara, Shani Vasara, today is Saturday. So that is just a running number, as I told you earlier. The nakshatra is Uttarashadha. The moon is near Uttarashadha nakshatra. And the yoga, based on the sun's and moon's longitude, it is called Parigha. And the Karana, the half tithi of Ekadashi, it is called Balavaka. So of this, except Vasara and Karana, all the other aspects have actual, the Sauramana Masa, the Chandramasa, Paksha, Tithi, Nakshatra, and all these things have actual physical meaning. Okay, so even though our Panchangas seem complicated, that is simply because that the tracking, the position, the movements of the sun and moon are complicated. It's not the fault of the Panchangas. So, but if you actually make efforts to learn what is there in our Panchangas, you will be benefited by being able to track the movements of the sun and the moon. So, and we can also realize that our Sanatana Dharma is following its festivals, not only the festivals of gods and goddesses, but also our own birthdays, or you would have heard about the Shraddhas, the oblations that should be given to your ancestors. So today was actually my grandfather's the day on which he passed many years ago. So today we offered our Shraddha because this is Kumbha Masa Krishna Paksha Ekadashi. Okay, so whether somebody's birthday or the day of remembering somebody, so all our Sanatana Dharma traditions are based on these Pancha Angas, right? So any questions? That is, I hope I have not bored you, but some aspects might have been sort of scientific, but this is what I really want to impress upon our especially younger listeners that we have to be proud on our Sanatana Dharma for having, see, everybody asks what is scientific. But our Sanatana Dharma also gives importance to what is scientific and what is beyond science. It does not throw away what is beyond science by claiming to be purely scientific. It does not totally disregard what is scientific by in the search of spirituality. Okay, science is a stepping stone towards spirituality. That is what our Sanatana Dharma shows, and that is something that I want all of our listeners to take away today from this talk. Thank you. Any questions?
Does anybody have any questions? No. Thank you very much, Shri.
Okay, ma. Thank you.
It
Sorry
was
if I
very
overshot my time.
Illa.
Thank you.
It was
Sorry, ma.
our...
Namaste.
Namaste.
Jai Shankara.
Thank you.